everyone, I'm Erinnisse. I'm an editor for unscripted television and documentaries. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and recently I directed and edited a feature documentary called Shoulder the Lion, which does unique things with image, sound, and music. So I'll be sharing with you about how I worked with music in making my film, and how a music library could work to your best advantage. From the start, I was sure I would need a composer because as a television editor, I've worked with a lot of libraries and I couldn't imagine stock music satisfying me. But I was given access to try FirstCom music and started out like most of us saying, I'll just use it as temp music for now. But to my surprise, I scored nearly 2/3 of my film from FirstCom's library. What I ended up discovering is you can get really creative and use library to score in ways that the cues will essentially not be heard the same in any other film. The key is layering, but to layer you have to first collect a mini library of cues and sounds to experiment with. Start with gathering references for the kind of music you want in your film before even looking at the selection available in the library. For my film, I collected words like avant-garde, minimalism, horns, strings, cyclical, repetitive, atmospheric, abstract, melancholy, reflective. So with this list, I started to search tags in the music library. When you start to find cues that you like, read the other tags listed, as you might pick up some more great search words that way. You'll want to devote a whole day to doing just your initial music search. Build this mini library, get at least 150 tracks in there. And it sounds like a lot, but when you're layering different cues, you're going to need plenty of options to find the right combinations. And when you're surveying tracks, listen to them as music ideas, not only as these whole compositions, but cues that have parts within them that you could edit and layer into your score. For example, in Shoulder the Lion, I scored what we call the ladder scene using 5 different cues. I start with this one track that had these great sustained qualities, but it also had some unfulfilling parts. It was too simple sounding by itself. So I brought in 2 other tracks that had more textures to transition the music. And then the other problem was it didn't go anywhere, it didn't have any kind of build, and the scene has this journey component to it. So that's when I brought in an entirely new cue with the same tones and melodic ideas, but it had far more energy. A simpler example of layering I did was with our blind photographer in a sequence where she's shooting a still life she sets up on her table. Bold strings and forceful melodies are how I like to score this character in the film. And I find this track with 4 parts to it. It was a strong piece of music, but I wasn't necessarily a fan of the 3rd change in it. So at first I thought, I'll just edit it out. But then I said, maybe I should try this as a round. So what I did was I laid the track in, and after the first phrase, I restarted the track again and laid a second layer of it. And then on that second layer, after that first phrase was done, I laid it a 3rd time. So what I got was something that was far more dynamic, it was bolder, it resolved all my issues with that unsatisfying phrase. Inevitably, you'll be working with a sound mixer and maybe even a sound designer. Don't forget, they have a lot of tools and effects to play with. They can affect your music with spatial effects, freeze effects, reverbs, loops, time warps. They have so many fun tools and toys that you can just let them know, I want the music to sound like this, and they probably are going to have a really great idea of how to achieve that. So for instance, there's this cave sequence in the film. And the score is made up of 2 pieces of library music layered together, and then some recorded live chants are put on top of that. Then all of these sounds were put through several audio processing filters. This scene's a really good example of how you can have very opposite qualities and cues, but they can pair very well. Because the one track is these Tibetan chants with these explosive random percussive bursts. And then the second track is much more dreamlike and melodic. Now, this, with the recorded chants that we did extra, all these sounds were processed together through spatial effects to make it appear as if you were hearing this within a cave. Now, those are just a few examples to show you the possibilities of working with music library. For me, with FirstCom music, I was constantly impressed by the quality of the music. I found the search tool was really smart and it made great associations to my tag descriptions. And then everything about the interface of the website was really simple and intuitive. Moreover, using a library became exponentially beneficial to the film. It was inexpensive in comparison to licensing commercial music. Also, the scope and selection is limitless in a library, so finding that variety of music styles that you might need, it's plentiful. Bottom line, music libraries are a playground where talented composers and musicians give you tools for your own experimentation, and it's up to you as a maker to test your creative limits and see what new sounds and songs you can make that have never been heard before.